This is Jamin Baxter, and I serve as Business Development Director for Moody Radio. The only reason we're able to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ on the radio is because of financial support from listeners like you. We also have businesses support us too, like United Faith Mortgage. Faith and family is at their core. It's why they choose to be such a close partner with our station. It's why they specifically advertise on Christian radio stations across the country. It's why father and son John and Ryan still lead the company to this day. Check out United Faith Mortgage and their direct lender advantage at unitedfaithmortgage.com. Thanks to you and to United Faith Mortgage for supporting Moody Radio.
United Faith Mortgage is a DBA of United Mortgage Corp., 25 Melville Park Road, Melville, New York. Licensed mortgage banker. For all licensing information, go to nmlsconsumeraccess.org. Corporate NMLS number 1330. Equal housing lender. Not licensed in Alaska, Hawaii, Georgia, Massachusetts, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Utah.
Today on Bold Steps, Mark Jobe reminds us that we need to have crazy bold faith.
Some of us make poor decisions and we postpone little battles that you know you need to fight, and you just let it grow. You think you're avoiding it, you think you're going to fight it later, but really it's getting bigger and stronger as you go. And when you circle back to fight it again, now you're not fighting a little battle, now you're fighting a mega battle.
Welcome to the Friday edition of Bold Steps with Mark Jobe. Mark is president of Moody Bible Institute and senior pastor of New Life Community Church in Chicago. My name is Wayne Shepherd. Well, today begins part one of the final message of this series, Courageous. And Mark, there are things in life that are worth fighting for, but sometimes these battles get a little out of control.
Yeah, and you're going to see at the beginning of this message that there are battles that we postpone and postpone and postpone until they become mega battles in our life. And some people have been postponing battles that you should have fought 10 years ago, and now these are mammoth battles. But God calls us to some crazy bold faith to win the battles that we should win that affect our life, the destiny of our marriage, our children, our family, our future.
Let's look at Joshua chapter 10 together. Here's Mark with today's Bold Steps.
I had a guy last week come up to me after service, and he was kind of limping a little bit like this when he came up to me. He said, "Hey, Pastor, you remember me?" I said, "Yeah, I remember you." He said, "I did it." I said, "You did what?" He said, "I finished the Chicago Marathon." I said, "High five, bro." He said, No, you don't understand. I ran for a charity. So I was motivated to run for a charity. But he said, I got halfway through the marathon, my feet were wet, and they actually split open so that I had major sores on my feet. I could barely make it. He said it took me 2.5 hours to reach the first half of the marathon. And I was about to give up, but I remember there were some people around me that saying, "Don't give up, don't give up, don't give up." And he said, to finish the second half of the marathon, because I was limping, barely able to walk, he said it took me 4.5 hours to finish the next half, double the time. But he said, "You know what? I finished." And I want to say that there's some of you that feel like he did halfway through the marathon, like I've made it, but it's going slow now. It's going tough. This battle is not as easy as I thought it was going to be. And some of you have walked out on a God-given dream. Some of you have given up on something that God deposited in your heart to change the destiny of your family, to let God use you in some extraordinary ways, to actually break cycles and make legacies and not be what was handed down to you from your parents or grandparents, but you were going to start something new. And you got half into it, the battle got difficult, it's tough, and you kind of put down your sword, you put down your shield, and you say, "God, I'm done. It's just going to be what it is." And if you're feeling like that, if that's you today, I want you to listen up, because I believe that this passage is for you. It's found in Joshua chapter 10. Some of you need to dare to believe for the strength to finish the dream that God has planted in your heart. And so I want to give you some principles that I think are important that I've gotten out of Joshua chapter 10 in finishing this battle. I'm going to begin reading in verse 1 of Joshua chapter 10. It says this, "Now Adonai Zedek, king of Jerusalem, heard that Joshua had taken the city of Ai and totally destroyed it, doing to Ai and its king as he had done to Jericho and its king, and that the people of Gibeon had made a treaty of peace with Israel and had become their allies. So he and his people were very much alarmed at this, because Gibeon was an important city, like one of the royal cities." Let me pause for a second and just give you the context of this. Many of you know that Moses, the iconic, legendary man of God, prophet, was called of God and set the people of Israel, who had been in slavery for 400 years. He set them free from the oppression of the Egyptians by some supernatural things that God did, plagues. He led them out of Egypt, parted the Red Sea with his rod, received the 10 Commandments from Mount Zion, led the people through the desert all the way up into the Promised Land, and then they choked. And so for 40 years they had to wander around the desert until they died off, and now he handed the leadership over to his protege named Joshua. Joshua was now leading about 2 million people, most scholars believe, into where Moses had been unable to lead them. Sometimes God has to raise up leaders to do what the previous generation was unable to do. And Joshua's leading the people of Israel. They consecrate themselves, cross the Jordan River, conquer Jericho. Then they have a mega defeat because there's sin in the camp. And now, I'm not going to get into chapter 9, but chapter 9 explains chapter 10. There was a people called the Gibeonites. And the Gibeonites heard how powerful Joshua and his army were. And so they conceived of a plan to trick Joshua. They tattered their clothes and acted like they had traveled a long way, and they showed up to Joshua and said, "We've heard how powerful your army is, and we live very far away, but we'd like to make a treaty with you so that you will not fight with us or conquer us." And so Joshua, listen, because he didn't want to fight another battle, he made a treaty with them. "We will not destroy you as we move forward." And then when they walked away, they said, "Ha ha, by the way, we're just neighbors. We're not far away. We live right next to you." Can I tell you something about this? Listen, my first point, write this down. The battle you avoid fighting in the past will grow stronger on the back of procrastination. Because Joshua didn't want to fight the Gibeonites. Who wants to fight another battle? Because he did not want to fight the Gibeonites and made a treaty with the Gibeonites, then the 5 other kings of the Amorites came together and attacked the Gibeonites, so they sucked Joshua into a bigger battle because he compromised in fighting the smaller battle. You say, "Well, Pastor, what does that have to do with me?" Let me tell you what it has to do with you. Let me bring it home to you a little bit. How about it? Some of us make poor decisions and we postpone battles, little battles that you know you need to fight, and you just let it grow. You think you're avoiding it. You think you're going to fight it later, but really it's getting bigger and stronger as you go. And when you circle back to fight it again, now you're not fighting a little battle. Now you're fighting a mega battle. Oh, I know. You went to the doctor and he said, "You have pre-diabetes." And in your mind, that means I don't have diabetes because I just have pre-diabetes. But really, he says to you, you know, you got to do something about this because you got pre-diabetes. And you say, "But do I have diabetes?" No, you don't have it, but you got pre-diabetes. You could have diabetes, but do I have diabetes? No. So you in your mind, you say, "Checked, I don't have it." But the doctor says, "You know what? You got to change your eating. You got to do something about your health or you will develop diabetes. All you heard is, I don't have it. And so you think to yourself, no way am I going to give up my champion breakfast at Dunkin' Donuts. Like that double chocolate cake donut with a Boston cream, 4 sugars in there. It's really like sugar with a little coffee that you put in it. You say, no, I can't give that up. It's too hard to change my diet. I can't give it up. I can't let go of that. And because you don't fight that little battle and change your diet a little bit and switch it around, next time 3 years later you go to the doctor and you say, I don't know what's happened with my toes. They're kind of tingling. I don't know. I'm feeling a little painful down here. What's happening? And now the doctor says, you have full-blown diabetes and we may have to amputate your toe because I told you, you got to change your diet. And because you were unwilling to fight a little battle back there, that has suddenly grown to a mega battle. And now you're not just fighting pre-diabetes, now you're battling for your leg. How many of you know what I'm talking about? It's when you postpone a little battle in the past, it starts to grow on the back of procrastination. Let me bring it spiritual to you. Joshua made a compromise with the Gibeonites because he didn't want to fight the battle. And that cost him a bigger battle in the future. He should have fought a smaller battle so that it wouldn't grow into a huge battle. Some of you right now are postponing things that you know you should do. You know God has called you to do, but because it's hard to do, you keep saying later. I'm going to do it later. What you don't understand is that the enemy is growing stronger and stronger the more you put it off. Oh, I know you're a dad right now and you say, Pastor, I came to church, I've come to New Life, I've sensed the power of God, I want to follow Jesus with all my heart, I'm still getting rid of some of my old habits, I want to be a man of God, I want to lead my family, I have 3 kids that I'm raising, I want to turn my marriage around, but Pastor, my job is stressful. So when I get home, I just go in the garage and I roll one up and it relaxes me, Pastor. Now my kids don't know about it. My wife smells it on my clothes sometimes, keeps telling me, you got to let go of it. But you know what? It's a little thing. It's not a big thing. I'm going to let go of it, just not yet. I'm going to handle it, just not yet. And so there's a battle that God has called you to fight, something to let go of. Eliminate it from you. Stop smoking that pot. I know it relaxes you a little bit, but get rid of it. But you haven't fought that battle. And then you get some news at your job that maybe they'll get layoffs and there's some stress at your work. And so you find yourself smoking 2 or 3. Now you're doing it at night when people go to bed. And now you got to mix it in with a little bit more drinking and booze. And it was a little battle. You thought it was under control. And then suddenly before you know it, 3 years later, it's affecting your family and your kids. And we're sending you to rehab. Because there was a little battle you should have dealt with a long time ago. You let that battle grow, so now it's become a major battle.
We'll continue this message from Mark Jobe on Bold Steps in just a moment. Mark, we have a message coming up this weekend on our sister program, Bold Steps Weekend. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so the message is entitled, The Power of Habits. The Power of Habits. And we're going to be looking at 3 vital habits out of Matthew chapter 6 that will revolutionize your life. Jesus emphasized 3 important habits in 1 chapter, and that'll happen this weekend in our special edition of Bold Steps Weekend.
Thank you, Mark. Let's get back into today's message on Bold Steps.
I'm talking about when you procrastinate what you know you should do. You procrastinate obedience, a battle you need to fight now. You don't fight it now. It grows with time so it can sabotage you in the future. And Joshua now is fighting 5 kings, not just 1. And by the way, can I remind you of this, by the way, that The reason that they weren't attacking Joshua, they were attacking the Gibeonites, but Joshua had made a treaty with the Gibeonites, and because he made a treaty with the Gibeonites, now he was sucked into their problems. How many of you have ever been sucked into someone else's problems? You get sucked into the vortex of someone else's crisis. You say, well, Pastor, I'm dating the guy. I didn't even like him that much. But he said, babe, I'm your girlfriend. I'm your boyfriend. Babe, hey, just $5,000. It'll get me out of debt. I just have some credit. So I loaned it to him. Hey, babe, if you can sign for me, look at me, babe. I'm going to look at my face. You could trust me, babe. Come on, it's me you're talking about. And now you're getting bankers that are calling you because you co-signed with some guy, and now you can't find the guy that said, look at me, babe, don't you trust me? And you've been sucked into his vortex of problems because, listen to me, when you make alliances with people that you shouldn't make alliances with, when you make commitments with people that you shouldn't be making commitments with, I'm going to tell you something, you will get sucked into their crisis. Joshua was getting sucked into the crisis because he made a commitment to the Gibeonites, an arrangement with the Gibeonites, and now they're attacking the Gibeonites, and he is getting sucked into the vortex of their crisis. So remember that the battle you avoid fighting in the past will grow stronger on the back of procrastination. So I'm going to ask you this question. What battle are you supposed to be fighting now? What battle should you have fought a year ago that you've been postponing? What battle should you have fought 2 years ago, but you just keep putting it off later when time is better? What battle should you fight that's growing, that's going to become a mega problem because you haven't decided to fight it today? Secondly, I'm talking about how to finish the battles that we start. Not only the battles that you avoid grow stronger, but remember this. The word of the Lord often comes once we decide to march towards the battle that we know we're called to fight. Verse 6 says, the Gibeonites then sent word to Joshua in the camp of Gilgal, do not abandon your servants. Come up to us quickly and save us. The Gibeonites were about to be attacked by 5 armies that had come together to attack them. Help us because all of the Amorite kings from the hill country have joined forces against us. Verse 7. So Joshua marched up from Gilgal with his entire army, including the best fighting men. And the Lord said to Joshua, do not be afraid of them. I have given them into your hand. Not one of them will be able to withstand you. So track with me here. I want you to notice that God did not speak to Joshua until he started marching down the road of obedience. That once Joshua started marching down the road that he knew he needed to fight, then the word of God came to him, not before. Can I remind you that sometimes we're waiting for God to give us a word, and God is saying, you don't need another word, you just need to obey what you already know, and then I'm going to give you a word? Oh, let me say that again. Some of us are waiting for a word, but God has already given us a word. You see, in Joshua chapter 1, God had told Joshua, Joshua, I'm giving you this land. In Joshua chapter 1, he said, Moses, your servant is dead. Get ready, cross the Jordan, lead your people into the land which I am ready to hand over to them. I am handing over to you every place that you set your foot, as I promised Moses. God had already told Joshua, I'm giving you this land, go take it. Obey me. But now Joshua is having some enemy territory occupy the land, and he doesn't stop to pray, God, should I go fight for this land? Because God had already told him, do it. I run into some believers that You want to pray for things that really is just a procrastination technique, because you don't need to pray, you just need to obey. Some of you are saying, well, you know, I've been dating this boy for 2 years. I know it's not quite healthy. He's kind of a believer because, well, how do you know he's a believer? Well, he has a cross, a crucifix he wears around his neck. Plus, one of his favorite earrings is the little cross earring he wears here. And I've seen a Bible in his house, you know. So he's sort of a believer, kind of a believer. You know, we're kind of struggling a little bit because, you know, I just started coming to church. I gave my life to Jesus. I want to follow God. But you know what? We really struggle because every weekend we used to go out, and then it's kind of normal that we have sex on the weekends together. During the week we're okay, but during the weekend we always have sex. I know it's not healthy. I know God says my body's the temple of the Holy Spirit, and I need to preserve myself and guard my sexuality. So you know what, Pastor, I'm going to pray about it. I need to pray, Lord, give me clarity. Hold on. What are you asking clarity about? Whether you should sleep with your boyfriend on the weekend? You don't need to fast and pray about it. You don't need to get counsel about it. You don't need to go to a mountaintop retreat and have God speak to you. God has already spoken clearly in His Word. You just need to start obeying. You don't need to pray. God doesn't stutter. If He's spoken it, just say, this is what God, you need to march on the way to obedience. What you're really needing to say is, God, I know what I have to do, but it's hard. So as I start to obey you, give me the power and the strength to follow through. Joshua didn't pray whether he should march to battle. He started marching to battle, and while he was marching, God spoke to him. And God said, do not be afraid, Joshua, because, listen, when we start to obey God in difficult circumstances, we start to fear. Am I doing the right thing? Can I follow through? Is this right? Fear is the culture of unbelief. Fear is saying to ourselves, can I really trust God? Can I really believe God? Fear is saying, if I draw a line, I may lose Him. And am I ready to lose Him? And in the back of your mind, like one girl years ago, I remember sitting down with one girl, and she came to me and she said, I broke up with this guy. He was really bad. I'm a Christian now. And I said, great, why are you sad about it? She said, because I'm 21. And I said, yeah, I'm getting so old. I said, honey, you're 21. I know, but I don't want to end up alone. And in her mind, listen, in her mind, she'd already played the track down the road that she was going to end up alone. No one's going to be there. That she was going to be, while everybody was married and had a family, that she was not going to do that. In her mind, she had already played the card of loneliness, the card of no one's going to love me, the card of I need to compromise my conviction in order to hold on to that which I even know myself is unhealthy. That's what she had played in her mind. Listen, don't let the enemy entrap you with his lies. Joshua starts to march, and God speaks to him while he is marching. Some of us, that's how it's going to work in our lives. As we start to obey, then God's going to speak to us and confirm His word. And God said to Joshua, do not be afraid. I've given them into your hand. No one of them will be able to withstand them. Number 3, so not only the battles that you avoid start to grow and sabotage you later. Number 2, remember that the word comes when we decide to obey. Don't wait for a word first. Obey if God has spoken. Number 3, God's power is manifest when we are weakest, so that all may know that the battle is the Lord's. Write this down. Sometimes it's at our weakest point that God calls us to our biggest battles on purpose.
You're listening to the Bible teaching of Mark Jobe, and today's message titled Crazy Bold Faith. You can learn more about Mark and this ministry or our new weekend program, Bold Steps Weekend, when you go online to boldstepsradio.org. While you're there and have some time this weekend, be sure to explore our website for the latest tools and resources to help you develop a crazy bold faith. This month's current Bold Step gift is a book by Dr. Henry Blackaby that's designed to reveal why everything we need to live an empowered, transformed life can be found at the foot of the cross. The book is titled Experiencing the Cross, Your Greatest Opportunity for Victory, and you can request it when you give a gift of any amount to support Bold Steps. But don't delay. Today is the last day you can request this engaging resource. So write to us at Bold Steps, 820 North LaSalle Boulevard, Chicago, Illinois 60610. That's 820 North LaSalle Boulevard, Chicago, Illinois 60610. Or give online and request the book when you go to boldstepsradio.org. And here's something else to consider. Next May, Moody Bible Institute will be going to Israel. Join Mark Jobe and Michael Rydelnik as they take you on a life-transforming journey to the Holy Land. Walk where Jesus walked as you immerse yourself in the sights and culture and the landscape of this special land. The Israel Tour runs from May 21st through June 1st, and you can learn more online at boldstepsradio.org. I'm Wayne Shepherd on behalf of Mark Jobe and the entire Bold Steps team. Have a wonderful weekend. And be sure to join us again Monday when Mark concludes this message from our Courageous series. Discover how to partner with God as He fights your battles with you. That's coming up Monday on Bold Steps with Mark Jobe. Bold Steps is a production of Moody Radio, a ministry of Moody Bible Institute.